It is going to be a busy year politically, not only for the U.S., but for Texas, too. The first presidential debate is going to be held at Texas State University in San Marcos.
And it's coming sooner than we think, but right now all eyes are on the border. That is where migration appears to have hit a new record. Our Ken Molestina and political reporter Jack Fink sat down for a very frank discussion.
Hello and Happy New Year. I'm Jack Fink along with Ken Molestina, and 2024 is certainly going to be a huge year, Ken. Politically speaking, and also one of the biggest stories of 2023 is going to continue into 2024. And of course, we're talking about the humanitarian crisis at the southern border. And so recently, the U.S. officials and Mexico's president met in Mexico to discuss this.
Yes, and this is something that I think a lot of people have been wanting to see happen for quite some time now, Jack. Have the two sides, the two governments come together and try and hash out some kind of a plan, at least some ideas as to how they can sort of work together to handle this. Obviously, we know that the numbers of the migrants that are showing up at the border on our southern border, historic numbers. It seems like every time we report on it, it's the volume is more and more, and it doesn't seem to be letting up. So the idea here between the two governments coming together is to talk about sort of a two-country, a binational solution to try and stop the flow, because as we know, it keeps on growing. Currently, there is a caravan making its way up from Mexico. As of a couple of days, it was something north of 7,000 people. We understand that now it's about 3,000, so it has thinned out some. But the idea that Mexico needs to step up their efforts in helping to sort of have checkpoints throughout the country and to try and deter a lot of the migrants from making it all the way up to the border. That's something that was front and center at this meeting. Now, we don't know the full details because government officials on both the Mexican side and the American side, they're being very tight-lipped about the actual specifics of how a plan like this would work. But there is a plan in place, we understand, and we're being led to believe, Jack, that it is a sort of a binational, at least a remedy. I don't know if it's a solution to the problem, but part of it, a heavy part of it, is encouraging Mexico to have immigration checkpoints throughout the country. Also for them to practice the deportations. Mexico doesn't really do a whole lot of this, as we've chatted and as many people know, because many of the migrants don't intend to stay in Mexico. They're making their way up here. So for many times, for Mexican authorities, they don't feel like it's specifically a Mexican issue, especially because the folks who are just coming through are doing just that. They're just coming through.
And you were at the border,
yes,
earlier in the year. And so talk to me about, what you're seeing right now at the border compared to when you were there, which wasn't that long ago.
The numbers are just, they're increasing. Every time we go down there, again, it just seems like, we're talking about a new record number. And what we're continuing to see is the different nationalities of folks that are showing up here. We're still seeing in large part, and we saw it a lot this year, is the Venezuelan nationals that are showing up. You have to understand, the things that are fueling migration of any kind now in 2024 are the same sort of things that fueled any kind of human migration historically. Things like unrest, things like famine, natural disaster, all of that is happening right now in many of these Latin American countries, and that's leading to crime and violence, forcing people to want to seek refuge and to seek asylum. A lot of them, that's why they come here, because they're seeking asylum. So that's happening in a lot of Latin American countries. Obviously, Mexico is sort of the thoroughfare to get to the United States. So we think of this as a United States-Mexican issue because territorially this is where it's playing out. But these folks are coming from all over Latin America and sometimes as far as even Africa is what border agents tell me whenever we're down there covering these stories.
And looking ahead to 2024, at least on this issue, you still have 3 legal disputes right now between the state of Texas and the Biden administration. One of those has to do with the buoy barriers in the Rio Grande. And then you've got the razor wire dispute, and then also SB4, the state's new law making it a crime for someone to enter Texas illegally. And those are going to play out all year.
And we expect it to go long. SB4, the last one that you just mentioned, that would have gone into in effect in March. Effectively, that would give local state law enforcement, not local, but state law enforcement, and so police departments, county sheriff's departments, Texas DPS, the authority to arrest migrants on a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months in jail for crossing the border illegally. So before, this has been entirely left left up to the federal authorities, to CBP, Customs Border Protection, and the Border Patrol to enforce these federal immigration laws. But now Governor Abbott's SB4 would give that same authority to local police. And again, Jack, that is causing massive uproar right now all throughout the state, throughout the country, really. And as you mentioned, this is something that you have to believe that even Governor Greg Abbott expects this, or would expect this, to go all the way up through the Supreme Court.
He says he's ready to do that.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the presidential election we're bringing in Washington. Next year is going to be a really big lead up to the 2024 election.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize just how fast the political calendar is moving, because the Iowa presidential caucus is Monday, January 15th. 8 days later, January 23rd, is the New Hampshire primary. And these are for Republicans only. And obviously, if you've been watching the news, you know full well that former President Donald Trump has been leading the Republican field really for months now, and he's far ahead nationally. He's far ahead in Iowa, and he's also far ahead in New Hampshire. And so recently I spoke with SMU political science professor Matthew Wilson about the Trump impact on this race.
I think Trump is in an extraordinarily strong position. The various criminal charges that he has faced have only strengthened his position within the Republican Party, because a lot of Republican-based voters have wanted to support him as a symbol of defiance against what they see as an unjust, politically motivated series of prosecutions.
And the Texas primary is March 5th. It's Texas and 13 other states. That's going to be the really big
and it'll get here before you know it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. Senate race, because that's something you're keeping a really close eye on, too.
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest race in Texas, aside from the presidential race, in 2024. So you've got Republican incumbent Ted Cruz vying for a third term. A number of Democrats are really vying to unseat him, including North Texas Congressman Colin Allred. You also have State Senator Roland Gutierrez of San Antonio, and another candidate is State Representative Carl Sherman of DeSoto. And I asked the political science professor at UT Arlington, Rebecca Dean, whether this was Allred's race to lose.
Well, it certainly is in terms of fundraising. I mean, he's out fundraised Senator Gutierrez 2-1. In terms of the National Democratic Party, I think that they see Allred. You know, he upset Pete Sessions, right, a sitting incumbent, to Matt's point earlier about incumbency. And so I do think it's Allred's to lose, though there's a lot of campaigning to do.
And so we'll see what happens, obviously, on March 5th. But then after that, whoever does win the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate now has to, run against Ted Cruz. And the most recent poll showed that Cruz is 16 percentage points ahead of any of the Democrats. It's very tough for a Democrat to run statewide in Texas, as you know, Ken.
We have seen that historically, but, who knows? We're keeping an eye on things because things are changing. Speaking of things changing, Texas State University down in San Marcos, they're getting ready to make history, Jack, because they're getting ready to host the first ever debate in a regular election.
Yeah, this will be the first general election debate in the state of Texas, and at Texas State University in San Marcos. And what I think is very interesting about this is, these universities really have to vie for it. They have to compete for it. So they're the ones sending in the proposals to the Presidential Commission. And the Presidential Commission obviously decided that Texas State University should have the first general election debate. It's going to be on September 21st. We are obviously going to be there. And I think it's interesting in the sense that Texas is really growing. It's boomtown USA, and it's really slowly but surely catching up to California. Texas has 30 million people. California has 39 million people. We are continuing to gain members. We just picked up 2 members of Congress, and there's a chance by the end, next decade, we could pick up 3 new members of Congress. So I think there's a lot of excitement about Texas, which is among the reasons why the commission chose our state.
And aside just from the population boom, what do you think that says about sort of the interest in Texas politics, the fact that the first general election debate is going to be happening here in the state?
Well, I think people are very curious about Texas. Certainly, we've seen a lot of attention on our southern border. I obviously think there's a lot of curiosity about this. Texas is still a Republican state. We've heard for years, though, that is going to change. But right now it is still Republican, but Democrats have tried to really make some inroads, and obviously we'll see what this year brings along.
All right. Well, thanks for the conversation, Jack.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I like chatting with you about all this stuff.
I know, it's going to be a fun year, I think.
Let's do it again in 2024.
Exactly, and we're going to be covering it. Stay with us on CBS News Texas.